It's Amy from Fox Run Environmental Education Center, and today I'm going to talk about how you would figure out if a baby wild animal needs rescue. So a couple of weeks ago I made a video on how to make a car kit to help animals, wild animals or domestic animals that you may find along the road or something. And one of my rehabilitation friends pointed out to me that I'd kind of passed over the whole, how do you know if they need intervention? And obviously, if you see something on the side of the road, that's a good indicator. So is the wild animal baby an orphan? You're probably going to be surprised that more often than not, they are not an orphan. That is just kind of nature's plan. So for instance, baby bunnies, they're in a nest, possibly in your yard, out in a field, and mom is nowhere to be seen. That's perfectly normal. So mother rabbits leave their babies, only come back to the nest once or twice a day. Same with fawns, and we actually have a video on the channel about what to do if you find a baby fawn. But in short, baby fawns are kind of deposited because they can't keep up with mom yet, and mom thinks she goes off, she goes far away, all the bad guys are going to follow her, so the dogs or coyotes will follow her and baby is safe. Now I do understand, I get lots of calls, baby might be right next to your house in your shrubbery. I've had calls from people that have had a fawn on their patio or their porch. I can't explain why mom thinks that's a good place, but obviously mom thinks that's a good place. She will come back. It may inconvenience you for a day, but keep the kids, keep the dogs away from the baby. Mom will be back. She'll take the baby, feed the baby, and go put it on somebody else's porch. Other animals, raccoons, baby squirrels, baby foxes, are all very curious, and when their eyes are open and they start getting bigger, they start wandering out of the nest. So it's kind of a situation, mom's away, the kids are going to play. And sometimes they don't quite understand that their nest, might be high up in a tree. And occasionally they do fall, and they fall at the base of that tree. That still doesn't necessarily mean they need intervention. Now if they've hit cement or hit their head hard and they might have blood from their noses, blood in their ear, then they may need intervention. But for the most part, we're going to monitor those babies and see if mom comes back. So there's nothing wrong with keeping an eye on that baby for 24 hours. That doesn't mean hovering over it. Don't be a helicopter parent. Step back, but check on it. See if it's still there. See if it's becoming distressed. But especially raccoons and squirrels, they will come down the tree and they will gather their baby and take it back to the nest. In the case of raccoons, their baby is probably in big trouble, and mom is going to be giving it a big lecture. And so not all the time do babies need intervention. Sometimes they're just going through the natural processes of their growing up stage, and we just kind of intersect paths with them. And so that's a cool thing. Don't try to take a selfie with them. Give them their space, and enjoy the moment, and know that you did a good thing. Sometimes baby animals do need intervention. Something that does happen is sometimes babies fall out of the tree, and they might hit something hard and become injured. Or sometimes, mom has gone off to find food and mom has, gotten killed by a predator, by the neighbor's dog. In the case of raccoons, somebody's trapped and killed them. So sometimes babies are orphaned. They're in their nest space for a couple of days. They get very hungry. they start crying, they get out of the nest, they fall down. If their eyes are closed and they've fallen, out of the nest, that's something for concern. They can't thermoregulate yet, and so they need help getting warm. You can gently feel, you should never touch a wild animal without putting on some gloves, but you can, gently feel them and see if their body temperature feels, cold. So that's a sign that, mom hasn't been around. They may have ticks or fleas. Often you can see fleas crawling around on them. Lice are a little bit more translucent. You can't necessarily see them, but they are often there. So you definitely don't want to, pick up the baby and have them right next to your chest. For the most part, don't pick up the baby until you have a plan. And so number one on the plan is to call a wildlife rehabilitator. So the Department of Fish and Wildlife, your Department of Natural Resources. Sometimes you have a state agency for wildlife rehabilitation. There is a National Wildlife Rehabilitation Association with a Find a Rehabilitator. And there's also a national app called Animal Help Now, where you can use it on your phone or the computer, but you can put in your zip code, and you can even put in the type of animal you found, and it'll give you any rehabbers in your area. Trying to remember that wildlife rehabilitators are volunteers. They may be few and far between. So don't go on Facebook and say, hey, who knows a wildlife rehabilitator? I have a baby squirrel. Because guess what? Some idiot is going to say to you, oh, I know all about baby squirrels. And they don't. They've read something dumb on the internet and they think they do. But the real problem is that if you don't have a license and you haven't been trained to be a wildlife rehabilitator and you get caught, it's not you who suffers, although in some states you can go to jail depending on the animal, but it's the animal that suffers. So if people are rehabbing illegally, their animals typically get confiscated and euthanized. So, the animal suffers, and we don't want that. The whole purpose of this is to help animals not hurt them. So if you find an infant animal that's very obviously orphaned, so, scrawny, covered in parasites, or has an injury, it is bleeding, you do actually see blood coming out of it, then the very first step after you've called a rehabber and, you might not have connected, you might have left a message. So the next step is that baby needs to have warmth. Hypothermia will kill them faster than starvation. So put the baby in a box, put a heating pad under the box, under half of the box, and have the baby on the side of the box that's not directly on the heat. So infant babies, eyes closed babies, aren't going to be able to move away from the heat. You will cook them if you have them directly on the heating pad. So, but they still need to get warm, but that heat will still come up in the box, kind of dissipate and warm them slowly, which is what you want. No food. Baby wildlife should not receive food. I know, I'm half Italian and I understand about wanting to feed everybody. So we don't feed baby wild animals because it will cause their bodies extreme stress. So number one, if an animal is dehydrated, their organs may be shutting down, and forcing food, and formula and milk is food, into their system will actually cause their system great distress and can kill them. Might not kill them at the moment. You might think, oh, they're fine, they're doing great because I'm feeding them cow's milk. But the truth is that cow's milk in 24, 48 hours is going to catch up with them and start causing their body to malfunction. So we never give food. Formula is food. Cow's milk is evil. and we never want to give those things. If you've talked to a wildlife rehabilitator, they might ask you to give some fluids if it's going to be a while before you can transport or they can connect with you. Fluids are water, watered down Gatorade. Pedialyte is great if you have young children, have Pedialyte on hand. And so those things are fluids. But don't give fluids until you've talked to, your rehabber. And so thank you very much for caring about wildlife and being interested in, learning how you can take those first steps to rescue a baby animal. Often these babies are in distress because of human conflict and not necessarily, nature's way. So thank you for taking an interest in them, and I hope you have a wonderful day.